Hey, Sonny here, and today I'm going to be looking at the song DNA. It's 2DMV and related event, as well as all of the symbolism behind it. DNA is a song by Azari that was commissioned for the Canada Focus event, Unreliable Notes, which first released on the 20th of March 2025. Azari uploaded their first Vocaloid song, Casino, to YouTube when they were only 16 years old. They most commonly use flower or kaiyuki, and their songs often have a dark atmosphere with horror elements. Not much is actually known about Azari themselves, but what I do know about them is that they produce consistent bangers. This is also the first time that Azari has made a song that they were commissioned for. Before DNA, only one of Azari's songs was already in the game, Shadow Shadow, which received a 3DMV and a Sekai version by Nightcord. And this MV quickly became one of my all-time favorites because the staging and choreography is just so good. Now, since DNA, to my knowledge, isn't based on any novel, we can just jump right into the story recap. As I already mentioned, Unreliable Notes is a Canada Focus event, which was literally just one day off being released the exact same day as Immiscible Discord. Even the logos are similar in appearance, and that is because this event also focuses on Kanade's distrust of Mafiu's mother. The event story starts with Nightcord in the Sekai listening to Kanade's new song demo. Mafiu says that it's a warm song and Kanade is glad to hear this. However, it's still not enough. She still hasn't been able to make a song that will save Mafiu from her sorrows. This spurs Kanade on to ask what Mafiu means when she says that her songs are warm. Since if Kanade knows what Mafiu is feeling, she might be able to get that one step closer to writing a song that saves her. Mafiu tells the rest of Nightcord the story of when her mother cared for her when she was sick as a small child, and how she cut an apple into rabbit shapes for her to eat, saying that the warm feeling she feels listening to Kanade's songs is similar to the warmth and the love that she felt back then. And so Kanade decides to create her next song with that memory in mind. Next we cut to the Asahina household and see that Mafiu's mother is sitting alone in the darkness of their living room.
本当に医者になりたいわけじゃない。本当に。それなら、私がやっていたことは間違っていたの。
Yes. The next day, Kanade is walking home from visiting her dad in the hospital and she looks troubled. Rin notices this and asks what's on her mind. Kanade admits that she's struggling to come up with an idea for the song, since she can't picture Mafiu's mother as being so caring. Kanade's impression of her is the complete opposite, and she came off as a cold person when they met. And because of this, she can't come up with a solid idea for the song. Kanade then runs into Mafiu's father. He asks how Mafiu has been, and whilst answering him, Kanade accidentally slips that she needs to keep making songs.
曲作り?
すみません。今、真冬のために曲を作っているんです。
And then Kanade gets an idea and asks if he could tell her more about Mafiu's mother. Kanade and Mafu Papa move to chat in a nearby cafe, and Kanade relays once again the story of when Mafiu's mother cared for Mafiu when she was sick. Mafiu's father says that he can see her doing something like that, since he's always seen his wife as someone who cares deeply for their daughter. Mafiu's father then tells a story of when Mafiu was still just a baby and suffered her first fever. He says that his wife, who was usually always so calm, lost her composure and was a wreck with worry. Since it was a day with heavy snowfall, the car wouldn't start, so instead, Mafiu's mother ran all the way to the hospital herself, cradling Mafiu in her arms. Even after hearing this story though, Kanade still can't get the image of Mafiu's mother that she knows out of her head, and understandably, she still has her doubts. Mafiu's father admits that both he and his wife made a mistake somewhere along the way, and didn't properly pay attention to Mafiu's feelings. But he still thinks that his wife is the same caring woman who rushed to the hospital that day. Kanade then asks how Mafiu's mother has been, to which Mafiu's father reveals she hasn't been doing anything but sitting in a dark room thinking about Mafiu. Mafiu's father later arrives home and begins speaking to his wife, who is unresponsive until he mentions he happened to meet with Kanade, and only when he mentions Mafiu's memory of when she caught a cold does she respond. Mafiu's father reaffirms that he wants to support Mafiu and make it so she can smile from the bottom of her heart in front of them.
本当に真冬が医者になりたいわけじゃないのなら、私のやり方は間違っていたのかもしれないわ。だけど、それなら、宵崎さんが正しいの？真冬は宵崎さんと出会って、あんなに変わったのに。予備校をサボったり、成績が悪くなったことを隠したり、あんなこと前はしなかった。
Mafiu's mother is trying to place the blame for Mafiu's change on Kanade, when in reality, whether Mafiu met Kanade or not, She was always suffering because of the pressure her mother was placing on her. Matthew's father reassures her that even though she may seem different at first, Matthew is still the same Matthew that they know, and goes on to reminisce about the day Matthew was born. Upon saying that he wants Matthew to be happy, his wife starts crying, lamenting that she wants to talk to her daughter. Cut back to Kanade, who has sat down, locked in, and is ready to make a song that'll save Matthew.
よし。作ろう。真冬を救うために。
Except, it doesn't go very well. No matter what she tries, she can't get her impression of Matthew's mother out of her head. And I just need to mention this line here, because it's pretty cruel to have Kanade sitting here trying to make a song using the memories of someone else's mother, because it's not like she can see her own mother again. Like, while it isn't outright said in the story, I think part of why Kanade is stressing so much over this song is because it's making her remember the grief of losing her own parents, and it just makes me wish somebody would give her a hug. Days pass and Kanade still hasn't left her battle station, fixated entirely on making a song that fits the brief. She is visibly frustrated and obviously feeling unwell, but she keeps pushing forwards. Despite scrapping failure after failure, she keeps creating. She feels so close to the breakthrough, but no matter what instruments or melodies she tries, it's just not working out, and not good enough to save Matthew.
次は必ず
Matthew comes in and timidly reminds her that she needs to eat something, but Kanade brushes her off.
そうだね。落ち着いたら食べるよ。
Matthew's father comes for his weekly visit and asks if Kanade's busy making music and tries knocking on her door, discovering just how exhausted she looks. And he immediately asks Matthew to escort Kanade to her bed to get some rest. Except Kanade's brain is still too active to fall asleep, and she returns to her computer. Rin watches on as Kanade is rapidly starting to look more and more like a zombie.
何回作っても近づけない。どの音が正しい。中低音が足りてない。試してないコードは。考えるんだ。次の曲は。
We finally get a chapter with the rest of Night Chord as Enna and Mizuki comment that Kanade hasn't been logging in recently. But they don't need to worry, because at least Matthew is there with Kanade to make sure she's eating properly. Well, except about that.
わからない。
Matthew says that she's been trying to tell Kanade to eat, but she brushes her off every time. Rin then appears and expresses her own worry for the state Kanade is in, and not long after, they hear an even more concerning sound from Kanade's room. Cut to Kanade's point of view, who even in a half-unconscious state, is still thinking about composing, and then she hears the voice of a little girl.
お母さん、どこ？全然見つからないよ。泣いてる。ねえ、大丈夫？お母さんって。お母さん。真冬、どこへ行っていたの？お母さんから離れちゃダメでしょ？ごめんなさい。さあ、行きましょう。お母さんと一緒に。大丈夫よ。お母さんと一緒にいれば、真冬は幸せになれるわ。だって私は真冬の親なんだから。ダメだよ、真冬。そっちに行ったらダメ。真冬。
Now there's a lot going on with this dream here. Firstly, it's a callback to 3 other stories. When Matthew got lost at the amusement park as a child, when Kanade ran into the child version of Matthew in the Sekai, and lastly, Kanade's conversation with Matthew's mother in Immiscible Discord.
Leave me alone!
だって私は真冬の親だもの。だって私は真冬の親だもの。
The amusement park callback is interesting because, as far as I can remember, Matthew never told Kanade about when she got lost as a kid. However, when Night Chord were at the park together, Matthew got separated from the group and lost once again, this time as a teenager instead of a small child. And after this incident, Kanade is adamant to not allow her to get lost again, and it appears this memory blended together with the one of child Matthew losing her rabbit plush in the Sekai. And the parent line stands out here, because Matthew's relationship with her mother is extremely complex and personal to both of them, and in order to write this song, Kanade is trying to step into that and to understand their connection, but she can't. So this line becomes a taunt almost. a reminder that Kanade wouldn't be able to understand the bond between them, because they're parent and child. And this is why Kanade is unable to create a warm song with Mafuyu's mother as the base. Just as Mafuyu's mother sees Kanade as an evil girl who's trying to take her daughter away from her, in her own nightmare, Kanade also sees Mafuyu's mother as someone who is trying to take Mafuyu away from her. Though in Kanade's case, this is way more understandable, since Kanade is acutely aware of just how much Mafuyu has been suffering at home and doesn't want her to have to return to that environment. Rin appears and snaps Kanade back to attention as Mafuyu rushes in to check on her. Anna and Mizuki are still in the call and everyone tells Kanade that she needs to get some rest and look after herself.
ごめん、心配かけて。
別に謝ることじゃない。奏は私のために作ってくれてるんだから。でもあまり無理はしないで。
Whilst Mafuyu is off making something for Kanade to eat, Anna and Mizuki ask Kanade what's been causing her so much trouble. Kanade then goes on to tell them about her nightmare.
それで、なんとなくわかったの。曲を作れないのは、私があの人のことを信じきれてないからだって。真冬の思い出と真冬のお父さんの話の中のあの人は、すごく愛情深い人なんだって思った。でも曲を作ってるとどうしても会って話した時のあの冷たい感覚がよぎるんだ。
No matter what Kanade does, she can't see the overlap of the Mafuyu's mother that she knows and the mother that Mafu Papa and Mafuyu know, to which Anna basically sums up the entire theme of this event.
でもさ、よく考えたらイメージが重ならないっていうのは当たり前じゃない？ほら、自分が見てるものと他人が見てるものって違うわけだし。
And Mizuki agrees with this.
まあ、そうかもね。特に今回は家族の話だし、なんていうか、家族の前でしか見せない顔みたいなのもあるのかなって。そういうのは僕たちにはわかんないよね。悪いところもいいところもさ。
そうだね。エナたちの言う通りだ。真冬と私のイメージを完全に重ねるのは難しい。だけど、イメージが重ならない限りきっと私は永遠に作れない。
Seeing that Kanade is still struggling, Anna suggests that she confirm it for herself, to which Kanade agrees and decides to get to know Mafuyu's mother a little better.
真冬のお母さんのことを必要以上に知りたいと思わなかった。分かり合えないし、分からなくてもいいって思ってたから。でも、きっとそれじゃダメなんだ。私は自分が知らないものは作れない。自分の中にない思いを音にはできない。ずっと今までそうだったから。だから真冬のお母さんのことをもっと知ってみようと思う。
And then she immediately tries to contact Mafuyu's mother.
じゃあ今から真冬のお母さんに連絡して。
は？ちょっと今からはさすがにまずいでしょ。っていうか休んでってば。
Mafuyu is called back into the room and makes sure Kanade stays put and gets some rest. Kanade then apologizes for not being able to properly make a song for her, and both of them agree that they want to confirm whether or not that warmth that Mafuyu remembers is still present in Mafuyu's mother's heart or not. In the final chapter, we see that instead of sitting in the dark, Mafuyu's mother has knit Mafuyu a scarf. Mafuyu's father later goes for his weekly visit and delivers the scarf to Mafuyu, which she accepts. He then asks Mafuyu if she would be willing to speak with her mother again. Mafuyu is still very unsure about it, but since she and Kanade decided to move forwards together, Mafuyu agrees to meet with her. And then Mafuyu says that she'd like Kanade to be there with her.
真冬にとって大事な話し合いだし、近くで支えたい。それに思ってたのと違う形だけど、真冬のお母さんのことを知れる機会かもしれない。私ができることをやろう。真冬を救うために。
So yes, the event ends on a massive cliffhanger with no real resolution. However, in the card stories, we do get to see more of the rest of Night Cold worrying about Kanade, and we also see Mafuyu coming to realize that she should have been more firm with Kanade and told her to rest. I think this event story is best summarized by the reveal trailer for the event itself. Kanade can see that little glimmer of hope, closer than she's ever been to working out what kind of song she needs to make in order to save Mafuyu. Except she's running down a dark hallway full of memories that don't belong to her in order to reach it, fighting her own impression of Mafuyu's mother in order to see what it is that Mafuyu and Mafuyu's father see in her. It's all just a fool's errand, but Kanade doesn't want to give up because she wants to save her friend, and by extension, herself. This event story actually received quite a lot of criticism, and I just wanted to talk a bit about that. So if you're not interested in hearing me yap about my thoughts on the event, just feel free to skip ahead to the next timestamp on the video. The main criticism that I've seen towards this event is that it focuses too much on Mafuyu instead of Kanade, which I disagree with. Like, I'm a Kanade Oshi, but I also enjoy Night Cold story as a whole, so I don't really mind if the chapters give focus to multiple characters at once, like as long as the story is still progressing. At this point in the story, I think it can't really be helped that Kanade and Mafuyu's arcs involve each other heavily. Kanade's arc won't really be able to focus on herself until she sorts out this fixation on saving Mafuyu. And in this event specifically, we're seeing the negative effects that this fixation is having on Kanade. With that said though, I do still have issues with this event, mainly with the narrative and the consistency of Kanade's character between this event and the next one. Narrative-wise, I don't really like how the event seems to be saying that Kanade is in the wrong for not being able to see past her first impression of Mafuyu's mother, because at this point in the story, Mafuyu's mother doesn't really deserve sympathy. Like, we can see in the next event that she is taking steps to improve herself, and that is good, but at this point, Kanade is completely valid for not trusting her. So I was a little disappointed when it seemed like this event was building up another confrontation between Kanade and Mafuyu's mother. But then you go over to the next event and Kanade is barely even present in the conversation. Like, my girl doesn't get to say a word. All I needed was a single shot of her being doubtful or glaring, and then only softening once Mafuyu said, "No, it's okay." Like, Kanade and Mafuyu's mother's distrust of each other has been built up over 2 events now, and then it just kind of fizzles out. And Kanade decides that she's just going to trust Mafuyu's mother. I don't know how she went from being so distrusting to then being like, oh no, I'm going to try and trust her now. Like, I wasn't expecting a full-on punch-out or anything, but I just wanted something. I was invested in their beef, and then it just kind of went nowhere. Unless it's going to come back up in a future event, but I kind of doubt it. So it just feels like the climax of this event is missing. So yeah, Kanade's character, and even Mafuyu's mother's character in a way, it feels a little inconsistent between these 2 events. And then she feels even less consistent when you look at the event before Unreliable Notes, which, yeah, that event, the one where the whole point was Kanade realizing that she can focus on her own desires and that making music doesn't have to be a burden on her. I feel like Unreliable Notes would have made more sense happening before that event. And I do think that Mafuyu's parents got a little too much focus. Like, they have a whole chapter of just them going through couples therapy. Like, maybe that one could have been saved for the Mafuyu event. So yes, while I did find the story itself to be a bit weak, that's only one aspect to the event, and the card set and song definitely make up for it. This card set has 3 main motifs: balloons, DNA, and insects. Balloons commonly represent freedom and are usually associated with joy, which ties in with the amusement park setting, which is supposed to be a cheerful place full of smiles. Double helix imagery is littered throughout all of the cards, represented by the ribbons on the balloons as well as being accessories on everyone's outfit. And oh god, now the video's turned into biology class. DNA is a polymer that carries genetic information for the development of literally every living organism. I'm just going to insert a short clip here to explain the basics.
Almost all of our DNA is arranged into tightly coiled structures called chromosomes. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, with one of each pair inherited from our father and the other from our mother. All the DNA contained in one cell is called the genome. We have one copy of our genome in nearly every cell in our body. Our genomes are approximately 99.8% identical to that of every other human being.
The double helix in these cards is pretty obviously used to represent family ties, as well as that tiny percentage of our genome that makes us unique from everybody else. As for the insect imagery, this is where Samsa comes back into play. While the Immiscible Discord cards had moth imagery for the entirety of Night Court, this card set decided to get a bit more specific, providing us with the scientific names of each insect the 4-star cards are meant to represent, with their costume names. Another thing that differs across these cards is the lighting. Like, they're all in the same amusement park setting, but the lighting for each card really changes the atmosphere of each one. Let's start with Canaday. The lighting in this card is an intense sunset, and it immediately made me think of Heat of Normal. Like, hurry up and get out of there, Canaday, I fear the heat death may be occurring behind you. Despite the cheerful location, the harsh lighting alone gives the card a sense of dread. Paired with Canaday's pained expression, the overall vibe of this card isn't a happy one. The balloons are all tied down, and Canaday is tightly holding onto one of them. Out of all of the cards, Canaday is the only one actually holding onto a balloon. And if they're supposed to represent happiness and freedom, then this would tie into the fact that Canaday doesn't think she deserves to be happy. She is tied down by the guilt she feels towards what happened to her father, and the string from the balloon she's holding makes it look as though she is shedding a single tear of regret. Another thing to note with Canaday's balloons is that they contain the DNA imagery, but none of the double helixes are complete. Canaday's card also has this distorted filter applied to it, which only adds to the ominous feeling it invokes. Despite being surrounded by a warm amusement park, and having been told of this caring side of Matthew's mother, Canaday can't capture that warmth, and it frustrates her. Also, the clock tower here is displaying 1 o'clock, which is likely just an Easter egg. As for Canaday's insect of choice, her costume is called Xylocoppa, which is the scientific name for the carpenter bee. Bees in general are a symbol of hard work and focus, but I think the reason they chose a carpenter bee specifically goes a little deeper than this. Unlike regular honeybees, carpenter bees are solitary and don't make honey. They either live alone or in small mother, daughter or sister groups, and they bore into wood to make their nests, hence why they're called carpenter bees. Only the female bees have a stinger and will only sting in defense or if they're provoked. Much like these bees, Canaday lives alone and is working hard all by herself. And despite her usual quiet nature, she is capable of standing up for herself and her friends when she needs to. She is capable of stinging. Despite also helping pollinate crops and other flowers, carpenter bees can be seen as pests due to the fact they sometimes make their nests in man-made structures. And they also have a habit of stealing nectar from flowers. This could tie back into how Matthew's mother saw Canaday in her Immiscible Discord card. Like, she sees her as the girl who stole the perfect Matthew away from her. Canaday's outfit is dark blue with pops of yellow, just like the carpenter bee, and she has a bee pin on her collar belt and both of her shoes. The lapels of her jacket also resemble bee wings. And we can also see that she is armed and ready, with a stinger on both her finger and hanging from her jacket. She has a long earring, which to me looks kind of like the rod of Asclepius, I'm probably saying that wrong, which is a symbol associated with healing and medicine. The stud part of her earring also resembles a little piece of honeycomb. And can I just say that she rocks the open back pantsuit look so hard? Like, can we have more of Canaday in pants, please? Thank you. Next up, Matthew, and holy shit, where do I even begin? First, let's rotate the card so we can actually see what's going on. In contrast to the intense sunset of Canaday's card, Matthew's card is practically devoid of colour, apart from the ominous pool of red beneath her. We can see the clock tower and Ferris wheel which was present in Canaday's card, but Matthew's location gives off a more dreamlike vibe, as if she isn't in reality at all. The lack of colour ties in with the insect that Matthew is portrayed as, which is the domestic silk moth. Domestic silk moths do not exist in the wild and are a result of over 5,000 years worth of selective breeding. As a result, these silk moths now barely resemble their closest relative, the wild silk moth, and can no longer fly as their wings are too small to lift their large fluffy bodies. They have also lost all of their pigment as they do not need to utilize camouflage like their wild counterparts. Due to all of these factors, these silk moths are entirely dependent on humans to live. Extensive study has been done on these silkworms, and basically everything about their makeup is known. They are a perfect product of thousands of years worth of scientific study. So what does this mean for Matthew? Well, firstly it ties in with how her mother has brought her up whilst constantly pressuring her to be perfect, and that under this pressure, Matthew began losing her sense of self, and the warmth from her home began to fade, instead becoming cold and devoid of all pigment. Except Matthew's heart is still beating, and her blood-red feelings have begun spilling out of the crystal apple that she's sitting atop. Since this crystal is shaped like an apple, the symbol of Matthew's childhood memories of her mother, it could also be seen as her doubting these happy memories. The apple imagery doesn't end there either, as we can see a real apple bobbing in the red pool, and it looks as though Matthew is the one who dropped it. Her expression looks completely torn and guilty, as if she's questioning whether or not she should have abandoned that apple, whether she should have disobeyed her mother or not. The balloons on this card are also tied down, appearing frozen in time. They are all very uniform as well, adorning perfectly shaped double helix ribbons, showing us just how heavily the issues with her family are weighing on Matthew. The balloon's hanging there as a constant reminder that even though she's run away, she isn't free yet. Lastly, we can see the silhouette of a butterfly on the Ferris wheel behind her, and to me this reads as either representing what she should be or what she can still become. Matthew's dress is super cute and very much resembles the silk moth it's inspired by, even down to the ribbon on her back representing their little wings that are unable to fly. Now, I know that what I'm about to say is like a massive reach and not really based on anything concrete, but to me the dreamlike atmosphere of this card feels as though it's tying in with this lyric in DNA, meaning that the Matthew we see in this card is the fragment of her that lives within her mother's mind, as well as the Matthew that lives within Kanada's mind. Matthew's mother doesn't know how much Matthew has been hurting. She only sees the pure and honest girl who has been led astray, whereas Kanade knows better than anyone just how deep Matthew's turmoil goes, and has vowed to save her from it. And I think that's why Matthew is portrayed as a silk moth here, because during this event at least, both Matthew's mother and Kanade view Matthew as someone who needs to be protected from the other party. Next up we have Enna, whose card is a lot more simplistic compared to the previous two. The sunset in her card is soft and doesn't invoke the same sense of dread that Kanade's does. Seriously, Kanade, I think you need to get out of there. Enna is also at a different part of the park, sitting near a carousel and one of those spinning swing rides. The mood of Enna's card is the most nostalgic and peaceful. The balloons here are flying freely up into the sky, which is actually not a good thing to do, by the way. Think of the environment, Enna. Anyways, only one of these balloons can clearly be seen with the double helix ribbon, whilst the rest are adorned with little bows. Unlike Kanade and Matthew, Enna isn't tied down by her family troubles, and she was able to come to an understanding with her father. Enna has already gone through something similar to what Kanade was experiencing during the event story, and she's also well acquainted with the sense of frustration that comes with not being able to create something that you're satisfied with. When Enna properly faced her dad's paintings and looked at them as a fellow artist, she came to understand that he isn't so different from her. Even he still had times where he struggled to paint. This is why Enna is the first to suggest that Kanade confirm for herself what Matthew's mother is really like. Her face reads as though she understands what Kanade is going through and hopes that she can overcome it. Enna's outfit is based on the swallowtail butterfly and prominently features its wings on the lapels of her dress. I think this ties in with the fact that she's an artist, and also that in a way, Enna has already completed her transformation and taken that step forwards. The event prior to this one also saw her and Mizuki accept one another and move forwards as friends. And that card set also heavily features butterflies as a motif. Rin is a 3-star, so we don't get the costume name for her, but from the large pin on the front of her dress, we can assume that she is supposed to be a Japanese silk moth. The lighting in Rin's card has a warm, hopeful glow as she watches the many balloons around her rise into the sky, as if she is the one that's sending them off. Since Rin is a Vocaloid, she doesn't have any DNA, so I see this card as her wishing for the happiness and freedom of the rest of Night Court. Lastly, Mizuki is only a 2-star card, so there isn't much to go off here. And Mizuki being the 2-star makes the most sense here because, unlike the other 3, she doesn't have any family-related troubles. Like, her family are actually really supportive. But I really wish we could have had some confirmation as to what insect she's supposed to be. The yellow and the lapels of her dress, combined with this pin on her collar, give a bee vibe. Except when you look closer at the pin, it has like a massive stinger hanging off of it, which made me think she might actually be a wasp, specifically some kind of potter wasp, because they have these insane abdomens. Mizuki also has a little butterfly pin in her hair, which matches the one on Enna's ear, most likely referencing their previous card set. Another thing to note about Mizuki is that in the afterlive for the event, she wears Enna's outfit, but then in the dance cover uploads of the song, she's wearing Kanade's outfit, which makes me think they've given her 2 insect motifs on purpose here. And finally, we can now look at the song itself, D/N/A. This was Azari's comment when it was first revealed that they would be making the song for this event. The you in the photos often made eye contact with me on those days filled with warmth. The you in the mirror can clearly see the wounds that I repress, /, Even now, the you that sleeps within somebody else's mind dreams whilst remaining a mere fragment. I pray that my sound will be able to thaw your frozen heart. Now you may have noticed that this comment is pretty cryptic, but the use of the slashes here is actually the key to understanding DNA's title. When we look at how this sentence has been split up, we get what the acronym stands for in the context of the song. Dareka no naka no anata, which I have taken some liberties and translated as the you that sleeps within somebody else's mind, but a more literal translation would be the you that's within somebody else. This line is also a lyric in the song itself. So basically, whenever DNA is said in the song, it has the double meaning of being actual DNA as well as this reading. And I have tried my best to incorporate both meanings into my translation of the lyrics. And the cryptic messages don't end there either, because if we look at this part, we can see that these symbols represent the ones that are in the Night Chord logo. And user Asakara Nama Biiru, yes, their name means beer first thing in the morning, in their massive write-up about the event, they bring up the fact that the very first chapter of Night Chord's main story shows that these slashes in the logo are supposed to represent cracks. So we could also interpret these slashes in the song as being cracks in the DNA itself. And I don't know if this was intentional or if I'm looking way too into it, but DNA is made up of 4 letters that are read in a certain sequence to produce proteins. So this sequence of letters can be turned into a full sentence. Like, do you get what I mean? Like the title works kind of like actual DNA. Shout out to Usa and Marsali once again for their helpful lyric breakdowns of the song. I'll touch on the MV for the Vocaloid version of the song first. On Azari's YouTube channel is a version by Flower and Teto, whereas on their Nico Nico channel, as well as in Proseka, the song is sung by Miku, Rin, Luca, and Meiko. Also, this MV is illustrated by Yoda. Throughout the video, we can see this girl's color palette switch to resemble all of the Vocaloids that sing this song, which I think ties in with the ominous eyeballs that are looking at her through the picture frames, each one of them seeing her in a different way. Towards the end of the video, the mirror shatters and we can see various things appear inside the cracks. First there's roses, then apples, and then rubies, I think, and then finally the eyeballs again. And I think the most obvious reference to proseka here is the apples. I also like how during this sequence, the black bars that were on the video slowly disappear as she comes forwards towards us. Now let's look at proseka's 2D MV. This MV is illustrated by Pipi, and the movie itself was made by Omu. And can we just take a moment to appreciate how stunning Pipi's artwork is? The MV begins with an apple being cut up into 7 rabbit-shaped pieces, an obvious reference to Matthew's memory of her mother. These apples then become a strand of DNA, and we cut to the title screen, where the DNA has changed to look as though it's made out of crystal, reminiscent of Matthew's card. During this sequence, it's as if we're looking through a microscope and studying Night Chord. Another cool detail is this extra magnifying glass searches around the screen, uncovering each kanji as it's sung. And here when Kanade says kokoro, heart, we can see that the circle rests over her chest and it's the only kanji that's written in red. Also, translator's note on the first lyric from Kanade here. Stacking a tower of pebbles can be associated with the Sai no Kawara, which, according to Japanese Buddhist mythology, is a riverbed in the underworld where the souls of children who pass away before their parents go. Bear with me here. These children who are trapped in limbo build stone towers by the riverbed in hopes of climbing up them and escaping into paradise. Except their efforts are constantly hindered by demons who knock their towers over. Due to this mythology, the phrase stacking stones by the Sai no Kawara is used to describe continuing to do something despite being unrewarded for your efforts. So just like the souls who stack stones by the riverbed, Kanade is stacking these pebbles, creating song after song in hopes that it will save Matthew. But it's a futile effort as she cannot capture the warm memories of Matthew's mother. When the scene switches between characters, the transition looks like the magnification level of the microscope is being changed. What's interesting about Mizuki's line here is that her voice actor confirmed that she was told to sing this song in a deep tone. She wasn't allowed to let any warmth into her voice, which I think applies to all of the vocals on this song. We get Rin standing against a mirror, and I find it pretty purposeful that they picked Rin as the Vocaloid for this song, since the word for mirror is literally in her name, and her and Len were created as mirror images of one another. And while Rin and Len aren't officially twins, most people still interpret them that way, so it's cool that Rin can still be involved in the family theme because of this. Then we get Kanade singing in the lowest tone I've ever heard from her, and the lyrics here likely reference the dream that she saw in the event story. Kanade and Matthew's mother only have fragmented information of one another, and because of this, it's easy for them to antagonize one another. And we get this really cool panning shot of everyone. And if we look at the full image that PP posted, we can see that they're actually inside a dark fish tank or at the bottom of the ocean, which probably means that this strand of DNA has frozen over from the cold. Mafuyu is the only one who is upside down during this sequence, which I think is referencing a later lyric about a reversed or upside down DNA. The way Mafuyu's outfit is drastically different from everyone else's in this set also reminds me of Samsa. In this next part, it's as if Rin and Kanade are talking to one another, and Kanade reaffirms that she can find it. She is determined she can find the sound that will save Mafuyu. And like all the lyrics about finding it in these lyrics reminds me of two other instances in the story where Kanade has said this, when she ran into Mafuyu as a child in the Sekai and when she got lost at the amusement park. And would you look at that, it happens to be both stories that are referenced in the dream. Another cool detail during this part is that you can hear frantic mouse clicks in the background, as if Kanade is there sitting at her desk frantically making a song. Now we get the panning shot in the reversed direction, as everyone says that despite their DNA, they're still individuals. In one way or another, Nightcod all have troubles that relate to their DNA, whether it be their father, mother, or biological sex. Basically, the song's main message is that our DNA doesn't always dictate who it is that we are. After this, the DNA strand shatters, and we can see a red galaxy shining behind everyone, which is even more reminiscent of Mafuyu's card. I also like the use of red and crimson in this song, because Kanade's character color is a hue of red. The line distribution here is really neat, because in the first sequence we have this, and then in the next part we have the same sequence but in reverse. Because Rin is acting as the mirror. And then the last set of lyrics here pretty obviously tie in with the event story. What I really like about this song, apart from the fact it bangs, is that we really get to see firsthand the kind of songs that Kanade was producing whilst thinking of Mafu Mama. Like, look at all the other Kanade focus songs we've had so far. They're either soft and heartfelt, depressing but still sung like a lullaby, or in Samsa's case, while it's firm with its delivery, it still has warm lyrics that are reaching out a helping hand towards Mafuyu. But then there's this song, which is cold and blunt, and it doesn't have a hint of warmth to it. And that's because this song is directed towards Mafuyu's mother. It's a declaration of Kanade's feelings, just like when she spoke with Mafuyu's mother in Admissible Discord. And this is why Kanade was struggling so much during the event, because this is the only kind of song that she could make. And lastly, just in case we needed one more detail to tie in with the DNA theme, the full song length is 2:10, February 10th. Kanade's birthday. And since DNA doesn't have a 3D MV, we have reached the end of the video. This was all just my interpretation though, so if you have a different interpretation of the song or just want to share your thoughts on the event, feel free to leave them in the comments. Since it's a direct sequel to this event, and I've had the song on repeat ever since it dropped, I will be making a video on Nihil-san, and also since it dominated the poll, I will be making a video on Bake no Hana eventually as well. But that one might take a while because there's a lot to cover in that event, so stay tuned if you're interested in that. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye! I really wish they would give the parents in this game like first names, because I feel like I've said the word Mafuyu at least like 100 times at this point.